Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, dear colleagues, I am pleased to be here with you today, though virtually, to continue the discussion initiated in 2019 with the presentation of the Global Study on Children Deprived of Liberty to the United Nations General Assembly. 3 years later, the deprivation of liberty of children continues to be an issue of grave concern, and one that is particularly important to the mandate I carry as a Special Representative of the United Nations Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict. Alongside the 6 grave violations against children in armed conflict identified by the United Nations Security Council, the detention of children for their actual or alleged association with parties to conflict, including those groups designated as terrorists by the United Nations, is another concerning trend affecting children in conflict that we systematically monitor and report on. In all of the 24 country situations and 2 regions covered by my mandate, the detention of children continues to be reported and monitored. In some contexts, the deprivation of liberty of children is even used as a weapon of war and to exert undue pressure on children, their families, and their communities, with dramatic impact on the health and mental well-being of those children. In 2021, at least 2,864 children were deprived of liberty for their actual or alleged association with armed parties to conflict in the countries on my agenda, including those designated as terrorist groups by the United Nations. The situations with the highest numbers of children in detention in 2021 were Iraq, Israel and the occupied Palestinian territory, Somalia and Afghanistan. This number includes thousands of children actually or alleged associated with Daesh, ISIL, and affiliated groups held in camps in northern Syria. It also includes children in Somalia deprived of liberty for their or their parents' alleged association with Al-Shabaab, and those in Nigeria with Boko Haram affiliated and splinter groups. It also includes children born of sexual violence and deprived of their liberty, making them doubly victimized and marginalized. And the list goes on. While in detention, most children have limited or no parental care, access to food, medical and psychosocial support, and to education or legal and consular services. Furthermore, the detention of children for alleged or actual association with parties to conflict makes them particularly vulnerable to torture and sexual violence, as well as other abuses and violations of their rights. Unimpeded access for the United Nations and other child protection actors to places of detention is an important measure to ensure the protection of children detained and to provide them with essential services. In a study published in 2020 by my office on the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on children in armed conflict, available data demonstrated an increase in children's vulnerability to recruitment and use, sexual violence, and ill treatment in detention. Moreover, the detention of children at that time made them particularly vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic, with less protection available to this already highly vulnerable population. Ladies and gentlemen, let me reaffirm loud and clear that the deprivation of liberty of children for their actual or alleged association with armed groups should be used only as a measure of last resort and for the shortest period of time, with respect of international juvenile justice standards. Age-appropriate alternatives to detention should be actively sought after and reintegration support provided. Above all, children should be treated primarily as victims, and their best interests should be given primary consideration. Despite the grim portrait of the situation of children in detention, there is hope. In September this year, the United Nations and the government of Burkina Faso signed a handover protocol on the transfer and care of children encountered during operations to secure the territory. A few weeks later, in October, the government of Nigeria signed with the United Nations a similar agreement, the Handover Protocol for Children Encountered in the course of armed conflict in Nigeria and the Lake Chad Basin region. Handover protocols are crucial tools to prioritize reintegration over the detention of children encountered during hostilities. Engagement of the United Nations has also successfully supported the release of detained children in the Central African Republic, Mali, as well as in the Philippines, following the adoption of a handover protocol in 2020. In addition, in recent years, countries like Iraq have taken some fundamental steps to facilitate the repatriation of children to their country of origin. The reintegration of these children and of all children deprived of liberty must be prioritized. Detaining children solely for their alleged or actual association with parties to conflict is also denying them the opportunity to rejoin their communities and reintegrate their society. Today I want to renew my commitment and the commitment of my office to continue working with all partners involved on the issue of the deprivation of liberty of children to enhance our joint efforts to end and prevent the deprivation of liberty affecting children. The task force on the follow-up to the global study on children deprived of liberty constitutes an important tool towards that end, and we pledge to continue to actively participate and support it. I thank you for your attention and wish you a successful rest of the event.